Hello and welcome to episode 6 of Honey the Photographer's Home. In this episode, we get to meet the extraordinary Julie from JMD Designs. She's a designer who has 23 years of knowledge in the design industry for builders and architects. And wow, I thought I knew what a designer did, but she just blew me away in terms of the different facets of design. And again, I thought designers were something that are very expensive process to do when going on building, but she explains in depth about it's not about that, it's about budget, and we can work with you at any level. She started as a paint consultant and now is designing homes for heaps of different clients. So stick around for this episode to see how Julie goes from start to finish and talking about all different facets of design. Here's episode 6. So yeah, welcome to the podcast, Julie.
Thank you.
Basically this is just a conversation, a chat on what it is that you do and just going into depths on and your interior design world. And we'd like to sort of pick our brains from each one of our guests on how it sort of relates into what we do, which is the real estate marketing, and sort of we see the end result a lot of the time. So
yeah, so we're kind of interested in the process almost.
Yeah.
We see it finished.
Yep.
But there's a lot of steps that go on before it, the finished product, obviously. So
Just one or two.
Yeah, just a couple. So we like to kind of talk to people about the before us.
Okay.
So Julie, who are you and what it is that you sort of do?
So I'm Julie from JMD Design, obviously, and I do everything that a client needs, anywhere from design to the colours to, working with the builders, small amount of project management depending on who's there. Like if there's not a builder involved and it's just tradesmen, like I'll deal with the trades. But yeah, I kind of call myself the client's right-hand man. Because,
I love that.
yeah, so I feel that as an interior designer, you do a lot more than just pick some colours.
Mm.
Oh, yeah,
People
for
have,
sure.
It's emotional, it's counselling, it's helping clients and husbands and wives that can't
Mediation.
come to mediation, like marriage counselling, who can't make a decision. And my clients do say that a lot.
Yeah,
like,
I can imagine.
You were so helpful to come in and, you helped us decipher what we were trying to get to and stop the arguments.
Yep.
So I'm like, great.
Yeah.
And then I say, I come into your marriage and then once we finish the house, I'll leave.
And then you leave. Yeah.
I'm like,
enjoy.
You can have each other again.
Yeah.
And some clients love that because there's husbands that are like, look, I'm not as invested as her, and you can take my spot and go with my wife to everything and select everything. Or I've even had husbands where wives are like, look, I'm too busy and he's really happy to make selections. Can you help him do it?
Wow, awesome.
And I've actually had that a lot, and it works well for them as well because then they're not at each other.
Yeah.
Because there's not this wife going, can you help me make a decision, to the husband who's like...
Who doesn't really care.
Well, even if he cares, he doesn't have an opinion in terms of like... he doesn't understand why he's selecting that floor over that floor.
Gotcha,
and she's
yeah.
yelling at him going, make a decision. And he's like, I don't know. Whereas I'll be like, that one, move on.
Yeah, and this is why I come thing. Yeah, you've got the knowledge in it. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah. So I see myself more as that type of person, to be honest, as a designer, than just picking the colours. Because for me, to pick the colours is easy.
If you're doing it on your own. Yeah.
Yeah. I find that helping clients come together to make a decision and keep the builder happy, because we've got to stay on time and stay on budget.
Yep.
And help the clients with that, and they can call me anytime, day or night, because we do get some 3 a.m. calls. The clients are crying, going, oh no, but that I don't answer. And then I ring them in the morning, I'm like, stand down, everything's fine, I'm bringing coffee, we'll sort this out. Yeah. So, and I have a lot of clients that are like, we couldn't have done this process without you, in terms of helping them make a decision and not be emotional or hot-headed about it, but also come to a decision that they absolutely love, because I just feel that, and I always have felt, that everyone should love their home. Everyone should walk into their home at the end of the day, because we all work so hard to pay for our homes,
Yeah.
that we should all walk into our home or our workspace and go, oh my God, I love it.
Yeah, and take
I
a
mean,
deep breath.
It's
and
the Australian dream,
Yeah.
right? Everyone
Yeah.
wants to have a house that's theirs and it's their
Yes.
mark on world. And
Yeah.
you're just one little step in that process to help say, yes, this is my mark on the world. So
Yes.
yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And I've always wanted to do that for any budget. Like I've always said, I want to help anyone with any budget be able to love something, if not everything, about their home.
That's awesome. That's a good philosophy. Like, yeah, to try and help as many as you can.
So leading on from that question, what sort of made you get into the interior design world? I know that was eons ago. We've been doing this for a long time now. Why interior design? Why that?
Well, I've professionally been doing it for a long time, but prior to that, I actually wanted to be a builder. When my dad was a builder.
Okay.
When I was 8,
there you
I said
go.
to him, I was on site with him for every day that I wasn't at school. The whole 6 weeks school holidays.
Yeah, I was going to say all your school
I just
holidays.
loved I've still got my tool belt from back then, and I just loved being his little right-hand man, and I said, I want to be a builder. And back in the day, he talked me out of it. He was Italian.
Oh.
He was still a little bit of the mindset that, women, should be women and wear dresses.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, sorry, you've got the wrong daughter.
Yeah.
But he did talk me out of it and just say, it's going to be really hard for a girl to be on site, because back then it was more difficult. Like, there's a lot more respect on site now, and there wasn't back then.
Definitely, yeah. It's definitely had a shift.
Yes, and I always loved.
He was
I always
just looking
had
out for you.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
But we did go on to do a lot of building together until even just recently. But I found that I loved design. The design part of it, like whenever we were doing building, I'd always be looking at it going, what can we change? How can we make it better? How can we make it prettier? How can we make it look bigger? How can we get better ventilation? How can we, always. And then also I loved soft furnishings. So I think at 12, because he fixed everything, he brought an old sewing machine home and fixed it and gave it to me. And so I said, can you buy me just a big roll of fabric? And there was a lounge, and I reupholstered it. So
Oh my gosh.
I went,
early work ethic.
Yes, but also I just looked at it and I was able to pull it apart, unpick it all, use that as a pattern and sew it all back together.
So clever.
Yeah, it sounds to me like you're the type of person that's had problem solving ingrained in you from such a young age.
Totally.
And being that you grew up with building, it sort of was a natural progression. You can understand and see from both sides of the story, like why you make a decision one way and why design helps influence that decision, because at the end of the day, that's the thing you're looking at, but there's so many other steps involved in that to actually make that happen. So yeah, that's awesome. So tell me about your design style and philosophy. Do you have a design style and philosophy, or is it sort of each to their own as clients come to you?
I always try and work out what the client's style is. I never push my style on to clients. Like, clients will often ask me, what does your house look like and what do you like? And I'm like, I'll show you photos of my house at the end of your job.
Yeah,
okay,
clever.
Yeah.
My style is not your style. And
Yeah.
so I always try and, because we could do a style for them and that I love, and then at the end of it they're like, oh, it's okay,
Yes,
but I don't really
you
love
want
it.
them to love it.
Yeah, I find that I'm very good at like looking at a person and analysing what I think that they would
I was
love.
going to say, how do you get that out of them if they're not sure on their style?
Yeah.
How do you kind of lead them in the way where you can figure out their style?
I've just got a knack of looking
Yes,
at them,
okay.
and I can already tell.
Just a hidden secret
Yeah,
skill.
yeah, and also visiting their homes. Like, I love being on site a lot. I don't tend to get clients to come to the office for the initial meeting. The initial meeting, I always want to go to their home, because even if there isn't everything there that they would potentially love to have, they've put that space together.
Yeah, there's elements there.
Yep.
That's them.
Yep.
Yep.
And then I just go from there.
Do you
very
ever
clever.
walk into a home and go from the initial meeting and then what you create are completely the opposite? Like, does that ever happen, or is there elements that you...
Yeah, only in terms of homes that I walk into and they've got so many different styles going on.
Right, yeah.
And that's
Every
where
room's a different idea.
Yeah, or even in some rooms, in one room,
Oh, right,
there's a few
okay.
styles going on.
Yeah.
And then when I explain to people the difference between the styles that they've got going on and point that out, they're like, oh. And so then I'm like, which is, like,
what are
basically,
you
here's
drawn
your
to?
Post-it note, which is the keep me.
Yeah.
And so if they go around and put keep me's, which I really hone in on those things, I see what they like to keep, and then I work out why they like to keep those things, and then I work from there.
Yeah, gotcha. So
That's such a clever idea.
yeah, I was just thinking that too. Yeah.
Are you going to go home with some post-it
Yeah,
notes?
I am. I was like, this is mine, Claire. This is yeah. So how
Hopefully
do
you
you?
put the stickers on the children.
Yes. So with your design style, I'm guessing that it's very subjective, and people obviously have strong opinions one way or other. How do you sort of stop, like, you know, in any design facet, from graphic design to photography to any design is so subjective. How do you find a middle ground where everyone can agree on something moving forward, or is it the client's right at the end of the day, or is it a bit of both?
It's a bit of both. The client, at the end of the day, the client is right.
Yep.
And I will tell them that, but I always say to clients, I'm not here to be your friend. You've engaged me to help you create a great space. So I'm going to tell you what elements will help you create that. And if at the end of the day, you want to go back to that hot pink, we'll do it.
Yeah.
And I will help you own that.
Yeah, gotcha.
But I need to tell you what will work so that you know that I've been honest with you.
Yeah,
Because
gotcha.
the biggest thing with me is honesty.
Yeah.
You know, I don't like car salesmen. I don't like people. I don't like people just talking to make noise.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So a bit on the design, where do you draw? Do you have inspiration that you draw from, and you know, people in your set? I know we like McGee,
Studio
McGee designs, and a couple of others. But do you have anyone that you sort of draw influence off, or is it? No, it's
Everything and anything. So I'm not big on being on the computer all the time. When I'm not working,
Yep.
I ride motorbikes.
Cool.
cool.
And wakeboard and snowboard.
You're in
and
nature, enjoying life.
nature. Yeah, I camp. I've got a swag. I love just being out and about. But anywhere I go, every single day, I'm spotting different things. You know, colours in rocks and trees, and like coming into spaces and seeing how other people have put things together.
Yeah, I was going to say, I guess their home would inspire you as well. Like when
Yep.
you see their keep me pieces and you
Yes.
go, okay, I'm now inspired by what you have and this is what I'd add to it.
Yeah.
So it sounds like every client kind of gets almost their own
Yep.
style in the end.
Yep.
Because it's a real collaboration.
Yes.
Yeah,
Definitely.
amazing.
Yeah.
And then that sort of draws on the question of, do you stick up with design trends, and if clients go, this is a design trend we have, or we want to sort of emulate it, or do you sort of then help them more on their own style front?
Their own style.
Yeah,
But
okay.
I think after being in the industry this long, nothing bores me more than sheep.
Right.
And I'm like, guys, we're not sheep.
Yeah.
We've got so many things. And yes, there are things that people do all seem to love that are the same, but we don't have to do that. You know,
Yeah.
there are so many products out there, and almost I won't allow myself to use the same paint colour twice in 1 week is one of my rules.
Wow.
What a good rule. Is it
Yeah.
hard to do some days?
I was going to say, you must know
No?
a lot of paint colours.
Oh, well, because I'm the Dulux colour consultant.
Well, there you
I
go.
Do know
You do
from
know
back to front.
every colour.
Yeah. But I have a rule because I don't like cookie cutting.
And you don't want to put them all in a
No.
a same box.
yeah,
Yeah.
it actually makes me feel ill.
Yeah, well, there you go. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
And I design by my gut. Like if I go into a space and I'm like, things just give me, turn my stomach. And
Yes.
I'm like, that's not right.
Yeah, you're so tuned into it.
Yeah.
I
And then
love
I try
this.
and work out why I'm not
Yeah.
loving it.
Does it
and-
keep you up at night?
Not up at night.
Well,
I
that's
just
good.
it's probably more that I get excited. Like
Okay.
my 3 a.m. wake up is normally like an amazing idea.
Yes.
And I've always got a notepad next to my
And
bed
you've got to
'cause I'm
write it
like,
down quickly, yeah.
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 I do because I know when I wake up I'll forget it.
Yes, yeah. That's awesome.
So, Julie, we obviously now know a bit about what you do. Talk to me about, I know nothing about interior design. How do we engage you, and what's your process in sort of coming from start all the way through to a finished project?
So there's quite a few avenues that you can, or clients can engage me and do engage me. So one is, as I said, with the Dulux paints, clients will go online and say, I want someone to help me with my paint colours. I will go and help them with their paint colours. But obviously whilst I'm there, I'm like, have you thought about
Yeah.
all
This,
these
that,
other
yeah,
things?
yeah,
Because
yeah.
when I get into a space, I
You
get all
start
inspired.
thinking, yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm like,
You can't help it.
this would be amazing. And that,
Yeah.
So there's that avenue. Then there's also builders, obviously, because builders don't want to do anything with colour and finishes. They just want to do their thing. So
Yeah.
they're good at building and implementing and putting the things into the spaces and building the spaces. And most of them will say to you, choosing colours makes them feel ill.
Yeah, they almost don't want the pressure, do they?
Yeah, and also because they don't want the pressure. They
Yeah.
don't want a client to come back after it's done and go, I actually hate that floor,
Yeah.
and you helped me choose it. And
Yeah.
then it's stressful for them because a client can sometimes go, I want a discount because I don't love that floor.
Yeah, that's so true.
And so, yeah, they'll it's kind of the builder passing the buck going, I don't want to have that responsibility,
Yes.
so I'm flicking that over to you.
But you've got all the experience to back it up.
Exactly.
And it sounds like you've also you've created this environment where you're so collaborative that it's hard for your client to say,
Sorry, Claire. Just hang up on him.
I can't. The mouse isn't working.
good.
Gotta love
Okay,
brothers.
go for it.
I'm exiting, wait.
Oh, sorry.
Exit completely. Sorry, team.
That's okay.
We tried.
Can I run across?
Yes, go
Or
for
too
it. Sorry, what were we talking about, Claire?
I think I was just saying, it sounds like you've created such a collaborative environment that it would be hard for the client to kind of come back to you and say, I don't love this now, because you've had so much engagement over the whole collaboration that there should have been a point where they already realised, would you
Yes,
say? Have
definitely.
you had any experiences where they've come back to you and gone, actually, I'm not a fan of this now that it's in, or when it's too late? Or you've caught it all?
Normally, we're pretty good at catching it
Yeah.
all. Because after years of doing this, I've worked out where the areas are that clients need a buffer.
Yep.
They kind of need. We don't do all the selections on one day.
Okay.
So we would do, the harder things we would spend, 1 or 2 hours on one day doing it, and then the next week we might spend a couple of hours, because I like the clients to have those gaps to process
I was going to
what
say,
we've
and
selected.
stimulation overload, like
Yeah.
throwing
Oh,
a bombard
sure.
so many decisions all at
Yeah,
once.
I do take. I have taken clients shopping that have got they're like, we've only got one day to do this, and I'm like, easy for me, loving it. But yeah, and about halfway through the day, I literally see them just start to shut down,
Yeah.
especially the husbands.
They need a snack.
I'm
and some
like,
coffee.
I'm like, let's go and get him some food.
Yes.
He's gonna get hangry.
I remember when
that'll be
I
me.
did my build selections. I don't know about you, Pat, when you built. I remember we went into like a little office and they brought out all the samples. They'd already given us like a PDF of the samples. They brought us all the samples and we're like, okay, what have you chosen? And we were overwhelmed and it was a lot, and we just went and it's a tiny little sample on a table, and you go, can I picture this floor throughout my whole house? I don't know. And I went back and forth going, is it too pink, is it too orange, because it's so tiny?
Yeah.
And I think having that buffer would have been really good to be like, okay, now this is what I've chosen for this. Now what's gonna, and like actually thought about it for a bit longer, but I remember that day so clearly.
But see, for me, it was easier because we literally had like maybe 3-4 choices that we could choose from. It was like
Okay, so
bang,
you're-
bang, 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 bang.
Yeah.
We were on a cheaper build, okay? but it was sort of 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you could go through and choose them really easily. But this is where you can easily become overwhelmed in the designer process. A, having a buffer, and B, having a consultant that understands or gets to know you, I think is really important to that next step of making sure that you are going to make the right
It
decision.
sounds so valuable.
Yeah.
Like, I'm already loving just hearing you talk about it.
Yeah. No,
Well, I don't like to restrict clients either. So
Yeah.
that's why I take them to the flooring store. Like,
Yeah.
we don't do the selections in my office because I don't want them to just see a little piece.
A little
Yeah.
Like,
sample,
I will
yeah.
meet them at the tile shop.
Yep.
And I will get the boys to go out the back and get me 4 pieces so that we can lay it out.
Yes.
And then I get them a big piece of everything we select to take home. Because then I say, take it home and look at it in a different light, and look at it in the morning, and look at it in the lights before you go to bed.
Yep.
And then when you come back next week for the next step, let's just revisit that before we move on.
Yeah.
And so they have had that whole week to go, yes, I'm in love with that. And then I'm like, let's move on.
So this process is a number of weeks that sort of this
Yes,
happens.
yes.
Yeah. Right, and it's every stage. It's from paint colors to textures and tile choices to what other
Joinery.
Yep.
So we've got the joinery design as well as all of the joinery finishes.
Yep.
Then we've got the window furnishings, we've got the carpets, we've got the timber floors, we've got the tiled floors, we've got the external paint colours, we've got the external floor tiles, we've got a lot.
Lighting.
Definitely lighting.
Yeah, lighting.
Yeah.
is, like,
Lighting
big
has
part
a
of it.
big.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we would normally do a lighting plan
Yep.
and even a PowerPoint plan,
Yeah.
a GPO plan, so that people can think about where do they want to plug in their ironing board, for their ironing board? Where do they want to plug in their lamps, their vacuum cleaners? People don't tend to think about those things.
Yeah, for
and I'm
sure.
like, well, that you're going to have a bedside table there, and you're going to have your bed there, and where do you want to plug in your phone every night? And like, so it's kind of getting them to think about all of those things.
I remember on our build, we had made a decision the week before that we were going to buy this chair that had auto reclining things with the power, and we were like, we need
couch
to,
or an armchair?
the lounge,
Oh.
no, the lounge. It was like a 3-seater lounge, and
Fancy.
and Claire and I go, where are we going to put it? We'll put it right in the middle of the house, and then we go, well, how are we going to get power to it? And it was literally the day before the guys were about to build the slab, and we called the builder and was like, we've got this lounge, we want to put it in the middle room, we need a PowerPoint, and like, yeah, sure, we can make that happen. Like, I'm so glad we called them, sooner rather than later, but we didn't have a designer involved, so I can see that would have been picked up straight away from that point. So no, that's very interesting.
Because
So
you can always get power anywhere.
yeah,
It's just how much are you willing to spend to
Yes,
get that there?
yes.
Because if they do have to cut that slab,
Yeah, and I guess it's
It's
the
a big
convenience.
cost.
Yeah, it's the convenience of like, okay, I don't want to put an extension cord across the room. So the way up of do I put it in the slab? Do I not?
yes.
Did that finish your question on start to finish? Not quite.
I think so. I think we're sort of there. I think it's basically, it's a long-winded process, and that's what I'm trying to get at. I think it's a long-winded process, but the reason it's long-winded is because
so
they're so involved,
Yeah.
and from start to finish, it's sort of A, get to know the client, B, then start to understand their styles and keep refining that style as you go, and then I'm guessing
And then
you
you're
end
there
up...
for the whole build. So however long the build goes for.
Yeah, and is this happening while the build's happening, or is this before we even start the building process?
We always like to do it before the building starts,
Yep.
so that obviously everything's selected. But sometimes I do get called at the last minute when a client's like, "Oh, I decided not to engage the interior designer that I was offered because I thought I could do it myself. And now that I'm at the
Now it's overwhelming.
now I'm at the 11th hour. Now I need you,
Yeah,
and so then
yeah.
it is a
A bit of a rush.
yes.
Yeah.
And that's again where I've got to be, okay, I'm not going to let myself get stressed about this because then that will stress the client out. Like I've got to, kind of bear their stress
Yep.
and go, it's all good,
Yeah.
let's make this process still easy because
Yeah.
everyone should enjoy that process.
And of course, you've got a framework that you sort of start to follow from start to finish.
Oh,
That,
yes.
That links everything together, and I
Yeah.
guess
And budget.
and budget. Yeah.
Yeah, true,
Budget's
that'd be-
huge. Like we haven't talked about budget, but budget
Yeah.
is massive. And so and that's another thing that I don't try and I try to not make people feel uncomfortable about their
Yeah.
budget because people can start to feel really uncomfortable. They're like,
Oh,
we
definitely.
want it to be beautiful, but we can't afford blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And so I never want it to be budget focused.
Yeah.
I always want to try and help clients as much as I can achieve something that looks amazing on the budget that they can afford.
Yeah, because obviously then they're not moving into the house that they love.
Yeah.
Financially stressed.
Yes.
Yeah, because they've overspent.
yeah. And
Is
also
it-
the builder as well. Like
Yeah.
I'm in the middle of the client and the builder too.
Yes,
So there's a
true.
lot of conversations that go on between myself and the builder, and separately client and myself. And he's like, you need to tell them this, and so I've got to think of good ways to approach them with that,
Yep.
so that he's happy because I've got to keep him happy as well as them happy.
Yeah, that mediator between
Yeah,
everything.
and
yeah.
that's what it is. A lot of my
Yeah.
job is like mediation.
You need to change your title.
Counselling. Well, I have actually started to think I'll have to put interior designer / counselor
Yeah.
/ mediator.
Yeah.
So just to get this right, so the budget approach for you is sort of let's dream first, and then let's start to accommodate that dream when the budget and start talking numbers. Because I think I know I'm like that with my wife Claire, and sorry for you, Julie. My wife is Claire, and this is also Claire.
We have a
it's-
couple of Claire.
There's a
Yeah,
couple of
sorry.
Claires in the office,
Yes.
but my wife Claire, she's the budget lady, and I'm the design king. So I basically. I dream up all these fantastic
Design king.
things, and then and then Claire goes, "Is the budget going to allow that, Pat?" I'm like, "I don't care. Let's
Spreadsheet
make it
comes
work.
out.
Yeah, let's make it work."
Yeah.
Would budget be something that you do bring up quite early on in the process then? Or is it too difficult a question before you kind of know them?
Well, I've found after doing this for a long time, I don't need to because I can
Okay.
read them.
Yeah,
So I can
okay.
read by knowing who their builder is.
Yep.
And where they're building.
Yep.
And what they're building.
And maybe what they do.
And what they do.
As a job.
And
Yep.
how they dress and the
Yep.
cars they drive.
Okay,
And
yep.
the things that they're and the
Bit
where
of an
they
intuition, a sixth sense.
Yeah.
but yeah.
yeah, where they send their kids to school, like all of that comes into play.
Yeah.
And then I know
You
where
can
we're
kind
at.
of
Yep.
take a bit of a guess.
Yes.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And I ask little questions
Yep.
along the way that I know will help me understand the
Yeah.
budget. Yeah. And a lot of the time, if they've already got a builder, then the builder's got a selection, like inclusions list.
Yes.
So I would already have read that and
Yep.
I'd know they've got this much to spend on tiles and this much. So I will already, if we're at the tile shop, for
Yep.
example, I will go over to where their budget is
Yep.
and start
So you
there.
you sort of phase out things
Yes.
before they even become
Yeah.
a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So in budget, just stick to this aisle in the tile shop
Well, I'm
first.
kind of
So
like,
clever.
let's start here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And let's see what you love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
if you
don't really
like- and then
talk
you
about
move on.
budget unless they spot something way over there and I'm like, we can absolutely talk about that.
Yeah.
But I can quickly also, from doing a lot of building, I can work out quantities from looking at a plan. So
gotcha.
I can kind of go, that's awesome, but it's probably going to cost us about this much extra. This
Extra.
was going to cost you about $3,000 extra. Or this is going to cost you about, $200 extra. And then you can kind of see them.
Yeah.
Starting to
Normally-
make
See how they
compromises.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you normally see the bean counter, which is normally the husband.
Yeah.
It's like, you can see him ticking. And she's like, I
That's
want it. I just want it.
It'll go with everything.
Yeah, and so I can also gauge, like, if he's kind of like, oh, I'll let her have it. Or if he's
Yeah.
like, you can tell if he's like a hard no or she's a hard no. The bean counter is not happy. And so then, again, my mediation goes, all right, well, let's compromise. Let's spend a little bit on the bit where people will see.
Yeah, let's do this room
and
not
let's
this
do
room.
that for
Yeah.
back of house, more cost effective, and then they're both happy.
I love this. It's like you're just a mind reader
Yeah.
of design.
That's cool. It's really
love it.
cool. So talk to me a bit about technology. I've got a question here about does technology influence design? Like the houses have been built the same way relatively for the last 100 years, but now that we're in this technological age, does that influence design at all, or is it just another step that you've got to actually add into the design process when building a sort of a home?
For most people, it doesn't affect it how people built houses
Okay.
20 or 30 or 40 years ago.
Yep.
Yes, it does if you're the type of person that's like, I need the latest and greatest. I walk in and
Computer
it
set up in the office and stuff.
it turns my whole house on and off.
Yeah.
Oh yes, my house.
So there is obviously that there, but
Yep.
most people are like, I just want to build a beautiful home and I don't really need that technology. So it's only when there is that occasional type of person that's like, I want all of this technology put into the house, and then that would be a lot to do with the electrician and
Gotcha.
and then we would just consult with him and say, the client wants this, how do we implement that? And it normally doesn't affect our design at all.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And so a little bit on the technology side of things. So you said lighting design, and that's part of technology. Why is
Yeah.
lighting so important in a home and getting that right?
Obviously, because if you've got it lit well or lit for moods, I think moods are really important. And I think with how busy everyone is now and how we live, if you don't walk into a space and you have it
Like affect your mood.
it will affect your
Yeah.
mood, and it also can also change how a space feels. So if you want a space to be really bright and functional when you're kind of getting home and you're getting the kids done, sorted and bathed and dinners, and you want it bright and light and open and
Yep.
so you've got lots of light.
Yeah.
And then you want to
able to
have the
see.
potential to turn off all of that big lighting when
Yeah.
you want your children to start calming down. So
Yeah.
I think it's not just for children, but that is one thing that I sort of say to people, there's so much ADHD and there's so many, kids have got all these things going on now that people they're really affected by the light and the
The colours and textures.
textures,
yeah.
definitely textures.
Wow.
So that's super important.
And lighting helps create those moods and moments in your life that you need to either be switched on, or you're in a doctor's surgery, switched on doing your daily job and need a lot of light, or you need to come home and be calm and cool and collected.
Yeah.
And lighting is a huge part of that. And
Yeah.
lighting isn't just the lighting on the ceilings; it's also your natural lighting, how the house is orientated,
Yep.
all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
So-
mood lighting,
Yep.
low lighting, lighting under furniture, as in built-in joinery,
Yeah.
so you can turn off all your overhead lighting and just have mood
the
lighting
floor.
on the floor.
Yeah.
So I like to have mood lighting in my house that floods the floor and just lamps. When, sort of 7:30 onwards, I'm like, there's no overhead lighting in this house.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
wow.
I need to relax.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'll have to.
Do you think lighting design is a luxury, or do you think you can get it right as well on a budget?
Oh, definitely on a budget.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, it's just putting in the right tone of light, placement in the right spots.
Yeah.
Like anyone.
So it's just making the decisions before the electrician comes along
Yes.
and doing it.
Yes.
So as long as you're not redoing what you've already got,
Yep.
it sounds budget friendly.
Super budget friendly.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, because you're putting it in anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, I need bright lights in the afternoons so that I don't trip over the toys.
Yes.
And then when they go to bed, then the toys are away and I can move freely with lights
Yeah.
lower. Yes.
Yeah, or it's going to help them go to bed. So you're
Yes.
not getting stressed at 7:30 going, oh my goodness,
They're
I'm
still
not.
awake.
They're wired and
Yeah.
I'm not going to get to sleep until 10:30
Yeah.
because they're not.
Yeah. So talk about now moving on from the technology into the eco-friendly side and the sustainable side. Obviously, that's now started to become a really big topic of conversation. How do you incorporate eco-friendly designs, and does that influence the way and the direction you go, or is each person their own sort of?
It probably comes down to a little bit of budget there because
Okay.
the eco-friendly products are amazing, but they are in some areas they are more expensive.
Gotcha.
But it's also weighing it up because long term they can end up being cheaper.
More cost effective,
Yeah,
yeah.
more cost effective
Right, yeah.
because you're not maintaining them all of the time. So you're not spending time and money maintaining, say, externally.
So
wood
what's
and
an
things like
example
that.
of a cost effective an eco product?
Oh, like external cladding.
Right.
Like lots of people use timber externally.
Yep.
So using the timber itself and also then having to maintain it is
Or
costly.
going down a metal approach, which timber
Metal
look
or composite.
or
There's,
composite,
there's
yeah.
much probably I would tend to go to a composite product as opposed to a metal one,
Yep.
just
Yep.
because it looks more real, but also because they would have used some product to recycle.
Ah,
Yeah,
gotcha.
and so I'm about using stuff that we've already got there and recycling it, but also furniture. Like I say to people a lot, if you don't need brand new furniture, have you thought about recycling something?
Yeah.
Because so
Or finding something.
yeah, there's so many beautiful pieces out there that I've seen, redone. And it doesn't mean you have to get something and paint it in some kind of tacky colour, but just reusing beautiful pieces,
Yeah.
even getting mid-century furniture. People are loving mid-century,
Most-
but
yeah,
you can get so much of it.
I feel like mid-century's become one of those trends, well, not trends, but like styles that you can find an element that almost everyone loves.
Yep.
Even if, like, maybe it's a dining table, maybe it's one chair, but it does seem to be like a style that people can kind of incorporate into what they have.
Yeah.
For me, it's those really cool chairs, those brown textured chairs. You have like a green velvet cushion on it. Oh, that's
You've got it in your mind.
yeah, that's it. That's
I don't know
my
if that was a
Like
good
the
description.
Tessa chairs.
yes, that's what they are.
Like
Yes.
a high back kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I feel like they can work in most styles. Maybe not
Yeah.
not a minimal kind of, I don't know, Scandinavian style, but
Yeah.
in most styles we could bring in a bit of
Definitely.
this-
Yeah.
And yeah, there's a lot of that secondhand.
Yep. Or free. I found
Yeah.
2 immaculate Tessa chairs in a skip on site.
No way.
Yes way.
Oh my god.
Yes.
And we're like, yes,
That
we
was
need
the
to take
silly
those
decision.
I
out.
was
by
like,
someone.
I'll take those awful chairs out of your
Yeah.
skip.
yes. If you don't.
Yeah, and I gave them to a friend who loves mid-century, and he
Yeah.
thought they were Christmas. And I looked online, and they were like, you could sell them for
Oh,
2,000 each.
Yeah.
So I just thought, and it's not about the money; it's about the waste.
Yes. And reupholstering. You mentioned that you did that when you were younger.
Yeah.
Have you found that reupholstering something can be more cost effective than buying something? Or, because in my mind it's quite expensive to do.
Yeah.
Is that quite true?
Yeah, it's not cost effective now.
Right.
You would be more inclined to reupholster something for the integrity or the style of the
Yeah.
product. If
Something
you've
that
got
you
a chair
love.
that you love
Yep.
and you can't find anything like it, then you would reupholster. But you would spend more on getting reupholstering done because you love that.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So bring it into sort of a little bit about what we do now. So we come in and take photos to help sell homes, and there's so many, and we sort of talk about selling. Is there any tips as a designer when a person's selling a home that you could give to sort of say, what's a tip that you think would help maximize, or when the person's building a home, what's a thing that they should focus on, and what do you think they should probably miss out on if they know that they're going to resell it or invest or use it as an investment property. Does that
Yep.
question make sense?
Yeah.
Do you want to say it again?
Basically, you know, is there any tips that you have for a person who wants to sell their home that a designer could give in terms of either staging, styling, or decluttering, or any one of the above, or design choices they make when building that could help improve the value of their house, basically? Does that make sense, Claire?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think there's a few elements in that question.
I know, there's a lot to
Yeah.
unpack.
It was kind of like if you're building for an investment point of view, if you're currently living there trying to sell point of view, maybe that one's a good one as well. Like kind of if someone is looking at selling their home, what would be the best way to spend some money to add value to their home from a designer point of view?
So we do something that we call pre-sale decorating.
There you go.
Yes, which is if the client can't afford to style, because some of them are like, look, I can't afford it or I don't want to spend that money on styling it, we go in and say, look at each of their spaces and see if they're using the space how someone would want to use, how I would use the space,
How
or
it's
someone
appealing to someone.
appealing to
Yeah.
someone else. Yeah. So if
And
they're
so-
using a space as a bedroom and it's small,
And it's
I'd be like, pull that bed out and put a desk in
It's a
there,
study, yeah.
open it up. Yeah. But the big thing you can take away from it is declutter. It's
Yeah.
just declutter. It's and think about it unemotionally. That's
Yes.
what I always say to people, because they're like, oh, because I'll suggest something should go,
and they're like,
and they're like,
"Ugh."
oh, I really like that, and I'm like,
I know you do, but
you love it.
Yeah, but your
Yeah.
audience
yeah.
who's looking
so,
at your house.
Yeah, so this was you were
Yes.
looking at your house as a home. Now look at it as a bag of money.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great
That's what
analogy.
I say to them. I'm like, it's a bag of money
That's the
now.
best answer
So,
we've
yeah,
had.
how
Yeah.
Phil can we get this back?
Yeah.
So, yeah, completely take the emotion out of this, because somebody else doesn't see it how you see it, and they don't love that awful blue chair. So pull that chair out.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, yeah, okay.
So this is a completely different way of looking at a space than what you would normally do with your clients then, because
Totally.
your initial, I would say the bulk of your business would be making someone love it, and it's all emotion. It's all about what they love and
Yep.
themselves.
Yep.
This service is completely different. It's about making it as kind of marketable as possible,
100%.
and it's nothing to do with what they love.
Yep.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Okay,
But
so
also,
fully-
it's also a different approach to like what Flynn does, where it's staging. This is an actual full service design philosophy. Going,
Yep.
how's this house going to look to an audience?
Yep.
And Flynn or any other stager would come in and go, okay, yes, we can do this part, but that's influenced on the decisions that you make.
Yeah.
I'm guessing.
Well, also, like I say to every client, if you're selling, I can't rate styling highly enough.
Yep.
Like, I think it is amazing.
So do
and
we.
what those people do with a space even blows me away. I just
wow.
think it, yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I think they've got such an art. I
Yep.
really,
Yeah.
really do. But if there is the client, and there are a lot of older clients that are like, well, we've been in this house for 43. They're so emotionally attached to it.
Yeah.
I have a
So-
mother-in-law that's like that at the moment. We literally just did photos today
Doing the
for
same
it. Yeah,
thing.
the same
Oh,
thing.
And
sort
it
of-
is so hard
Yeah.
because to get them, and it's a counselling session.
Yeah.
It's going,
Just another
stop,
counselling
yeah,
session.
just stop thinking about this house so emotionally,
Yeah.
and just think about the money that you can emotionally spend on the next house.
Yeah.
And then they're like, yeah. And I'm like, just dream about that one.
Yeah.
And even if they are going to get it styled or staged, and I'm just coming in to help them to get that process started, it is talking to them about getting rid of their red feature walls and their blue trim in one room and having it neutral as possible, but also not white. I have an aversion to white, because I don't think it goes with most houses. So
that's
I know that a lot of agents will come in and say, just paint it all white. And I'm like, you're actually taking all of the soul out of this house
By painting it
just
white.
painting it white.
Yeah.
So you can paint it a white,
Yes,
but
just not
it's
white on white.
not white.
Yeah.
Especially coming from the Dulax
I
colour
know,
consultant.
you know the white.
There's like a million shades of
I
white.
was
It's
gonna say,
like,
I wonder how many shades of white there are. Probably hundreds.
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
'cause
Well,
you
I
get
have a
this-
pack that I have of just whites.
Wow.
And it's about that thick.
I wouldn't
so,
be able to decide.
Yeah.
I
And
wouldn't
so,
be able to decide between
when
whites.
you do know the undertones, and that's what
Yeah.
I do try and educate my clients on the undertones.
Yeah.
Because I think it's really good for them to know, even moving forward when they're choosing furniture and things like that.
And then they can see it in that way.
they can understand it, because most people don't understand undertones.
Yeah.
And undertones is huge.
I think I've actually learned heaps.
Oh, good.
So thank you for sharing your insight with us, because there's definitely so much more involved than I think people realize. And there's a lot of value in it that I don't think people would initially think about when they go, I'm building a house, I'm trusting the builders. But actually, the builders would probably love you to trust a designer who's done this for years and thought about this for years. And obviously you see it so differently to most people in terms of walking into a space and seeing them.
Yep. And I think a lot of people just see it's going to cost you this much to have the designer help you with that. And they don't understand all of this stuff that I've explained to understand the value of where you're getting that value from.
Definitely.
And it's not until they use me and then they do come back and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I did that.
Well, that's why we do that's why we do these talks, because it's a great way to debunk some of these myths on designers are these big, too expensive, scary option. But now you can see that there's so much involved that it's actually worthwhile having this cost.
Or even scary people that, like, a lot of clients saying to me, oh my goodness, I can't believe how down to earth you are. Or like, I was really scared when you were coming over, we were sweating, and I'm like, it's just me.
People would be thinking that straight away you're going to be like, everything you own is awful and we're starting again.
Yes.
But it doesn't sound like that's true at all. And
well,
also,
there are some designers that do that.
Yes, I'm sure there are.
Clients go, I had someone, and I'm like, not everyone's like that.
Yeah, 100%.
I would say as well, probably in your industry, it's probably in another industry where people only see the finished product. When you're advertising yourself, you probably only see the finished product.
Yes.
And no one really sees how much actually goes into before that finished product.
Yes.
So it's great to hear how much goes into it and how it works, and get a really good understanding of what goes into your day-to-day of being a designer.
So, Julie, final plug from you. Who are you? Where can we get access to you? And where can we find out more about you?
Oh gosh.
On the spot.
So Julie.
Yep.
Julie Dalmasso, JMD Design. We've got a website, jmddesign.net.au. And I don't know.
Instagram, socials.
Yes.
Socials.
Facebook, Instagram.
Yep. We'll see your car driving around.
My car. Yes, it's all over my car.
Yep.
I don't know.
No, that's perfect.
No,
that's perfect, Julie. Well,
that's
thank you very much for coming on. It's been awesome chatting with you. And like I said, I think we've debunked so much of this design world that even I didn't know about. So next house
Pat learned a lot.
Next house I build, Julie's right on the first person I call before the architect. So cheers. Thank you very much, Jules.
Thank you so much, guys.